Have you ever discovered someone secretly laced your drink? My boyfriend spiked my drink at a club and everyone told me to look past his actions. Before me and my boyfriend went to a club, he told me he was planning on taking some ecstasy, and he brought enough for both of us. I had to tell him that I didn't want any, and also to let me know if a drink was spiked so I could avoid it. Once we started dancing, I saw my boyfriend spiked his drink and made a mental note. Somewhere down the line, we got separated and I didn't see him for 15 minutes, after which he approached me and handed me a drink. Since the glass was different from the one I saw him spike, I thought it would be safe. I even asked, "Is there something in this drink?" He said no, so I gulped it down without a thought. As soon as the substance hit me, I fainted on the ground, causing everyone to panic. It felt like my ears were ringing and I was in outer space. Some of my friends carried me to their car and took me home while my boyfriend stayed to have fun at the after party. I just felt so violated and disgusted. I had trusted him to not just protect me, but also with the responsibility of telling me whether or not my drink was spiked, and he failed on both accounts. The next morning, I had a text from him that said, "You good?" I lost my control and unloaded everything. I told him what he did was borderline assault, and he didn't even have the decency to act worried for me. He hadn't checked in a single time and didn't even come back to our apartment. He told me he was checking in now, that his actions were a mistake, and he simply handed me the wrong drink. And even then, it was just a little bit of ecstasy, so I shouldn't overreact. I replied that if he could do that to his own girlfriend, then I didn't even want to imagine what he'd do to a random girl. He said I was out of line and needed to apologize, but he never apologized for violating my trust and boundaries. I stopped texting and went back to sleep because that's all he was repeating. When I woke up, my phone was blowing up with calls from him and texts from our friends. Everyone was saying I went too far and calling him a arpist, which I never did. They said he had just made a mistake, so there was no need to go this far. My boyfriend's text ranged from calling me entitled and stuck up to telling me my imagination was disgusting, but never once did he apologize. So that's what I told everyone. I had put my trust in him and explicitly said I didn't want any substances that night, but he still gave them to me. Safe to say that the relationship is over and I will be kicking him out of our apartment. Things went from bad to worse, and I was invited to my best friend's place for mediation. They told me to not be hasty and at least have a talk with him, to which I agreed. My boyfriend looked distraught and like he had finally learned his lesson. He apologized to me for not telling me what was in the drink and said he would like to work on our relationship, but he slipped up and said, "In my defense, you really needed that because you were being a buzzkill at that party." I clarified, "Which one is it? You made a mistake or I was being a buzzkill?" Because those are two different things. He immediately tried going back on his words, but this time it didn't work. Everyone had heard him admit he did it on purpose. I started crying because of all the pressure I'd been feeling, so my best friend hugged me. One of them held my boyfriend in place and asked if I wanted to report him to the authorities. I said yes. We took him to the station and turned him in despite his several requests for forgiveness. My friends also apologized to me and said they didn't have the full story, so I decided to forgive them if they helped pack up all his stuff and throw it out of our apartment.